We live? What is going on? What up, though, Lions fans? We are back. The Motor City Cats, of course, are back at it. Came to give you stats, not static. Whatever you do, make sure you keep your Lions news pragmatic. We got things to get into today. Injury news. We got some shots being fired from here, there, and everywhere. All of these things I kind of addressed yesterday. The iffy situation I addressed yesterday. The Nick Wright situation I addressed in a roundabout way yesterday. The Matt Derry situation is a situation that I didn't touch on. I didn't talk about what can happen when there are other people within the Lions fandom, within the Lions media, who have things to say about this team. There's always going to be someone who's trying to keep us down, and we're going to jump into those things right away, right off the bat. What is up, though, Lone Spoon? What is up, though, Tailor Made Media? Glad to see you guys made it today. Let's get to the Matt Derry situation. If you haven't heard by now, Matt Derry, who is the host of the Locked On Lions podcast, has come out and he has said some inflammatory things about one Jameson Williams. Now, if you know anything about me, you know I am the official keeper of the JMO. Okay, this is my official title. Okay, along with being the Dan Campbell anger translator, I am the official keeper of the JMO. Matt Derry used his platform to complain, to whine, to bemoan the actions of one Jameson Williams. Now, he wasn't bemoaning on the field play that was terrible, or that was bad, or that was inadequate, or that wasn't even decent. He wasn't complaining about Jameson Williams missing a block. He wasn't complaining about Jameson Williams giving up on a play. He wasn't complaining about Jameson Williams being a bad teammate, because he can't complain about any of these things. No. Jameson Williams doesn't miss blocks, doesn't give up on plays, is not a bad teammate. These things are not what JMO is. JMO blocks his ass off. JMO doesn't give up on plays. JMO is a great teammate. So his thing was, hey, his act is running thin or getting tired. What is the act? Well, the act of JMO is to be injured when you are drafted, but we traded up for you to the number 12. We went back into the first round to get you, okay? But you were injured, so that means you're a bad, horrible human being. Then you had an iffy gambling suspension. Now, the gambling suspension was so dumb that the NFL themselves decided, hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and take that from 6 games to 2 games. Now, the timing of when they dropped it from 6 to 2, was a bit silly, but whatever. He had already served 4 of the 6 games. So then he was right away put back into the lineup. He was reinstated immediately. Okay. And then there's the situation where he did get suspended for the performance enhancing substances. And then I guess you could talk about the gun situation. The gun situation, again, is not one of those situations where it's completely black and white. A lot of it is black and white. See what I did there? But the gun situation. Listen, you can talk about being smarter. You could talk about making sure you have everything taken care of and you follow the laws. And I get all of that. 100%. He should know the laws. He should understand them. If he's going to be a gun owner, which He's from St. Louis, which is very much like Detroit, and he's in Detroit now. He carries a gun for protection. He's not like Ja Morant, who carries a gun to be a fake gangster. Let's just call a spade a spade. That's what Ja Morant is doing. That's why he's flashing guns all over IG and TikTok, and that's why he's getting suspended by the NFL for half seasons and things of this nature. I mean, the NBA. So that's the act. Now, this is a guy in Dan Campbell who you've seen the tune change over the couple years that J-Mo has been there. Remember when he got suspended for the gambling thing and they asked him about J-Mo and he was like, yeah, he's in the building. He's here. Next question. Right? Very cut to the point. No, you know what I'm saying? He was upset. Since then, all of the other situations, okay? Dan Campbell has been 100% supportive. He has been 100% behind Jameson Williams. Everyone, all the players in the locker room have been 100% supportive, 100% behind Jameson Williams. This offseason, Dan Campbell was J-Mo's biggest fan. He's talked about who changed or who improved the most from the time that the last season ended until this point in the offseason leading up to training camp. He was being talked about as being the number 2 wide receiver on the team, lock. There was no other receiver that was going to be the number 2 guy. They moved on from Josh Reynolds, and hopefully Josh Reynolds has a quick recovery. We know he's, I don't know if he's back playing again, but we know he's been at practice and all these things. So, the situation he went through where he was shot and all these things, he was being targeted. It was a coordinated attack on him. But they moved on from Josh Reynolds. And they said, J-Mo's our guy. And J-Mo has talked about the confidence that has instilled in him, and he is balling. So now Matt Derry is in the category of people. And I heard someone else say this before, who have the Oakleys and the Oakley shades and the pickup trucks, as their profile pictures. Because what else is the reason? And I know someone else, myself, who as soon as anything happens with J-Mo, as soon as anything happens where he's in the news or anything that can be considered a misstep or anything that is a misstep, I'm out. I'm done with this kid, blah, 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 blah. But what the thing that no one will say is he's not a kid. No one will say he's got still more maturing to do. Listen, all of us have kids. Most of us that are in this space that are talking, a lot of us that are listening, we all have children. If you have multiple children, not just one, you know that the children develop in different stages at different paths at different times, right? We know this about our kids. Are our kids not people? Are they not human beings that are in society? Because this is what happens with people. People mature at different rates and stages, right? I got 3 kids. Okay, got a daughter, very mature. I have a son who's right behind her in age, who is still, working on his maturity. This is what happens. So now for Matt Derry to come in and just rain all over J-Mo for a celebration. Yeah, no, I didn't say because he dropped the pass. We were trailing the Jacksonville Jaguars 7-6 with 2 seconds left. J-Mo was wide open all by himself in the end zone. Jared Goff throws a 50-yard bomb and J-Mo took his eye off of it because he was busy celebrating, looking up in the stands like, yeah, I'm about to catch this and we're about to win and blah, blah, blah. And then he dropped it. That must be what Matt Derry is talking about, right? No, because we beat them 52-6. And J-Mo didn't drop it. Where did J-Mo caught a pass over the middle, as he's done before, and took it 65 yards. And then he paid homage to one of the most iconic celebrations, which was Marshawn Lynch turning around, jumping into the end zone, grabbing his crotch after the Beast Quake run. Matt Derry was so enraged by all of this that he just had to, he had to address it. And then he said, I'm done. I'm not going to, you know what? Actually, I'm going to talk about it some more because it's bro, what are we doing? What are we doing? If you don't like Jameson Williams, and this is going to go into my other thing, because I have to gloat a little bit, and it's going to sound bad. It's going to seem bad, but trust me, I promise you, I'm not a bad person. I promise you, but I just got to do it, okay? Jameson Williams is a player on your team who is filled with dynamism. He is dynamic as they come. He is the most dynamic receiver that we have, because while Amon-Ra is the most technical, the most sound, the surest of hands, Jameson Williams has that thing that you can't coach and you can't teach. It's called speed. He's a 4.2 guy. He will make your defensive coordinator stay up all night trying to figure out how to cover him, because he knows, not just trying to figure out how to cover him because you know how to cover him, but it's the calls within the game. How are we going to game plan? Because there's one time, just one time, if I leave this man one-on-one, it's curtains. It's to the house. We are in trouble. If I don't put a safety over the top and I leave him one-on-one with anybody one time, do I feel safe to be able to do that? Well, Reek Woolen is supposed to be a 4-3 guy, and we saw what happened. We saw what happened in with Seattle, right? It was piecing to the house. Hey, Jameson Williams didn't run the 40 at the combine because he was injured. He might be faster than Xavier Worthy. I'm just saying, he might be a 4.19 guy. I'm just saying, okay? It sounds crazy to think, but it might be true. And we don't know in any official capacity because he was injured. So Jameson Williams is that type of guy on your team. You should be so ecstatic. And the other thing is, right after that game, that Matt Derry is so upset about him celebrating, and what if he cracked his head open as he dove into the end zone with his hand on his crotch like Marshawn Lynch. He was out passing out Thanksgiving turkeys with Kirby Joseph, who we're going to talk about in a few minutes here, with Kirby Joseph, to underprivileged families in Detroit. Fun-loving guy on the field and off the field. Big heart, loves himself some Detroit, ingraining himself in the community. Full stop. What are we upset about, Matt Derry? All right. John F. and Laura, what's going on, my guy? All right, let's get to some of your comments. So Lone Spoon says he's old, give him a pass. Taylor Made Media says he can't stand Jameson Williams. Jessifan says good evening and God bless you all. Good evening, Jessifan. What else we got here? I don't want my kids to grow up emulating him, says Taylor Made Media. You know, it's that kind of thing. Paul Thomas, what's going on, my guy? Salute to you. Lone Spoon says J-Mo has something you can't coach, speed. That is 100%. All right. Now, as I was talking about Jameson Williams, I brought up him being a guy on your team that you must root for because he's so dynamic and he's so good. Now I'm going to bring up a guy that if you know me, if you've been with me, right? Because some people may think, oh, Motor City Cats, this is a new podcast. He's just jumping on the bandwagon. Nah, I've been in this thing since Goff got here, okay? Since 2022, right? Or was that 2021? Whenever Goff got to Detroit, the new regime, Dan Campbell, all that. That was 2020, right? Or 2021? Because this is the fourth year. So I think it was 2020. And I've had multiple podcasts, right? So here's the thing. If you watched the Monday Night Football game last night, you saw our old friend, Jeff Okudah. Jeff Okudah got toasted. I mean, he got roasted, toasted. He lived up to his nickname of burnt toast. He got roasted, toasted. His first action, live in-game action. Kevontae Turpin is lined up now. Kevontae Turpin was in the USFL. He was a special teamer, a punt returner, kick returner in the USFL. Jeff Okudah was the number 3 overall pick. Bro, he beat the brakes off of him. He burnt him like, bruh. He burnt him like he was covered in lighter fluid and somebody lit a match. He burnt him like a woman puts on some chicken and goes and watches her favorite soap opera. He burnt him so badly. And it brought such joy to my heart. Why? I don't like to revel in the misfortune of others. But you Lions fans out there, and I saw shout out to Armani Edwards. Shout out to Maz. Shout out, Woodward Sports. I know Woodward Sports as a network doesn't always have the greatest reputation, but the people that work there are great, right? Shout out Easy. Easy was gonna try to come on tonight, but Easy's out being a good dad, with his son and everything. So shout out to him. Maz was again. What if that guy, the number 3 overall pick out of Oh Hell No State, he didn't say Oh Hell No, I say Oh Hell No State because I don't say the other word, right? Had this coaching staff, because Matt Patricia ruined his career. Bro, Matt Patricia did not have you getting burnt by a former USFL player. Okay? You've been away from Matt Patricia for how many years? How long does it take you to get back to your technique if you ever had any? He didn't have any technique. He wasn't good at football. Some people are good in college. Remember Gino Torretta? And I'm taking it way back. Remember Gino Torretta? Remember he won the Heisman Trophy? Remember his NFL career? Good, because I don't. Right? Do you remember it? I have no clue. Remember Charlie Ward? Remember he was a 2-sport athlete? He was at Florida State, quarterback. I think he won the Heisman. Do you remember his NFL career? No, because he went to play in the NBA. He was that good, and he chose the NBA. It doesn't always translate from college to the pros. It's a different football game. And like I said, when Jeff Okudah got drafted and he was playing, I said it looked like he'd never played football before in his life. So, welcome to the Texans, Jeff Okudah. Welcome to the Texans, burnt toast. All right, let's see what we got going on here. So Paul Thomas says JMO is also a good kid. He's always happy for the guys. Yeah, great teammate, great in the community. You know what I mean? All of that stuff. Paul Thomas says Jeff Okudah toasted. Now that's a shock. Yes. Jeff Okudah getting toasted, nothing new. Right. TaylorMade Media, University of Miami. No, oh hell no, State University, Ohio State. All right. That is my name for them. So again, to put a bow on the slander of Jameson Williams, if you are a person who dislikes Jameson Williams, you should just ask yourself why. For all the things that we have listed, he is a dynamic talent. He is super fast. He takes the top off of defenses. He was the missing piece to this offense to be one of the greatest offenses in the history of the NFL. Without Jameson Williams, the threat of the deep ball does not exist. Who are you afraid of on the Detroit Lions taking the top off? Khalif Raymond? Because that's the only one that you got. Okay? When JMO is out there, JMO doesn't have to have a catch. Okay? But guess what's going to happen? If JMO is in a game, and go back and look at the tape, if he doesn't have a catch in a game, guess what else is happening? D-Mont and Jahmyr Gibbs, a.k.a. Sonic and Knuckles, are running wild because the boxes are so light. Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam LaPorta are eating over the middle because you have to roll coverage to Jameson Williams. All of these things exist, and then there's his playmaking ability. So, again, if you have a problem with JMO, you need to check your fanship. You need to. You need to pull out your fan card and say, maybe I need to renew this because it's expired, buddy. It is expired. All right, now let's get to some of the other. Yeah, oh yeah, Gino Toretta, TaylorMade. Yeah, University of Miami. Yep, Charlie Ward did play for the Knicks. So the other slander, and this is what I talked about yesterday. Yesterday I talked about how as the Detroit Lions, okay, and all of this ties in together, okay? Detroit Lions, Super Bowl favorites for the first time in the history of the franchise, ever. They have never, ever, ever been favored. After the loss of the Kansas City Chiefs to the Buffalo Bills, they became the favorites to win the Super Bowl, okay? Based on the Vegas odds. Detroit Lions have never been favored before. We have that type of team this year, and the expectation is the Super Bowl. You can truly say at this point in the season, 9-1 through the first 10 games, which we haven't done that since 1934. None of us here were alive in 1934. My father was not alive in 1934. Okay? My father was negative 11 years old in 1934. Okay? So we haven't done it in any of our lifetimes. I said that you're gonna have people in the media who do not give this team props for whatever reason. And I gave examples of Keyshawn Johnson. Keyshawn Johnson, if you remember some weeks ago, I think it was like maybe 3 games ago, they were talking about on Speak, I think, what is it called now? Is it still called Speak? Yeah, it's still called Speak. So it was him, Michael Irvin, and Joy Taylor. And Keyshawn Johnson just wouldn't give the props to the Detroit Lions because the question was, are the Detroit Lions the best team in football right now? Okay, Joy Taylor gave props. Michael Irvin gave props. Keyshawn Johnson is like, well, I need to see a healthy San Francisco. I need to see a healthy. Okay, well, let me see a healthy Detroit Lions because we're missing a hell of a lot of pieces. Okay. And at that time, Aidan Hutchinson was not playing for the Detroit Lions because he had been injured in Dallas. Okay. Marcus Davenport was not playing for the Detroit Lions. Derek Barnes was not playing for the Detroit Lions. The list goes on. Kamish wasn't playing for the Detroit Lions. Okay. I think Rodrigo was injured at the time. So I want to see a healthy Detroit Lion team go up against a healthy San Francisco 49ers team. Can I see that? Because if you got to see a healthy 49ers team go up against the Detroit Lions in order for you to say that, hey, this is the best team. Okay, then what happens when we beat San Francisco? Healthy. Then you're going to move the goalposts because there's people like Keyshawn Johnson all over the media who just don't want to give the Detroit Lions their props. Another guy that doesn't want to give the Detroit Lions their props, who is one of the most buffoonish analysts. Okay, I cannot watch this guy because he has so many fallacies in his mouth at the same time. I cannot. Right? He's LeBum. You know, he's better than Jordan. Jordan could never, hold his jock strap. He just said the wildest things about Jordan. He's a Patrick Mahomes stan. His quarterback tiers, the way that he rates quarterbacks is literally called Mahomes Mountain. Just let that sink in. It's literally called Mahomes Mountain. So he goes down the list of Mahomes Mountain and he gets to Jared Goff by saying that this guy is a civilian at quarterback. And he can't, you can't call the Detroit Lions the best team in the NFL because he's a civilian. He's just a guy. He's a great guy personally, but he's a civilian. This civilian has put together the greatest 5-6 game quarterback stretch in the history of the NFL. This civilian has one of his jerseys in the Hall of Fame, his uniform, because he had a perfect game with 18 for 18, and nobody else has done that in the NFL. This civilian is setting records and doing things that you haven't seen in the NFL while Patrick Mahomes is playing like garbage this season. Patrick Mahomes is chasing Jordan Love for the lead in interceptions. Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs may have woken up. I'll get to that when we're talking about the Super Bowl. So they may have woken up with the loss to the Buffalo Bills. But Patrick Mahomes isn't playing great. Patrick Mahomes has never beat our civilian at quarterback. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? At some point, even if you are wrong, I would rather be wrong by giving someone their flowers too early because of all of the instances that I have seen. I've seen many instances to say, you know what, Jared Goff is for real. But this is the hatred that you're going to continue to get. And I said, even after, and I hope and I prayed that the Detroit Lions win the Super Bowl this year. But even after they win the Super Bowl this year, hopes and prayers answered, withstanding, there's going to be the Keyshawn Johnsons, there's going to be the Nick Wrights. So the only way to shut the people up like Keyshawn Johnson and Nick Wright, and to some degree Shady McCoy, is that the Detroit Lions must run the gauntlet to get to the Super Bowl. So their what would you call it? Their path to the Super Bowl has to be number 1 seed. They have to play the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs. They have to play. Who else do they have to play? Oh, they have to play the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC Championship game, and they have to play the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and they have to beat them and stop their three-peat. This is the only way that the Detroit Lions cannot catch any slander. Let a team like I don't know, who's 8th place in the NFC right now? Does anybody know who's the 8th place team in the NFC right now? Even if it were like, let's say the Rams, right? TaylorMade Media. Jared Goff does have a lot of interceptions because he had one anomalous game. Okay? He had one anomalous game. This is the thing I'm talking about. Look at Patrick Mahomes. He's got one game this season without a pick. Look at Jordan Love. He's got 0 games this season without at least one pick. Okay? Jared Goff had 6 games. A 6-game stretch in which he did not turn the football over. Not a fumble, not a pick, nothing. He had a 6-game stretch where it was a foregone conclusion that he was going to get. He was going to have a perfect first half. Right? Again, you know, and I know TaylorMade, welcome. I know you're a noted Jared Goff hater. But the numbers and the eye test, okay, they do still count. Here's the thing when I say about the eye test, they do still count. Back to when we talked about the kids, right? Okay, and we talked about JMO, right? We talk about habitual offenders. If you have a person, perfect, Pac-Man Jones was arrested again after the Jake Paul fight. Okay, the robbery at Jerry's World. After that robbery, and I don't mean the fight was a robbery like somebody got robbed. I mean, Amanda Serrano did get robbed, but the whole situation with Jake Paul fighting Mike Tyson, and Mike Tyson just looked extra old in there, like he refused to fight anybody. Okay. After that, Pac-Man Jones got arrested for public intoxication and assaulting a police officer. Do you believe when Pac-Man Jones says that's not the whole story or that's not true, and I'm looking forward to telling the story when it comes out? You don't believe Pac-Man Jones when he says that because Pac-Man Jones has been arrested like 15 times. Okay? Now, if you have a person that crashes out, and I can't think of a good example right now. So just this, you got a person, they just crash out one time. Boom. They've been cool their entire lives and they just crash out. Bam. Something happened. Don't know what happened, right? Bam. They just lost their mind. Okay? You're going to give that person the benefit of the doubt because they crashed out one time. And we don't know what they were going through. We don't know what happened. It just something happened. They snapped. They crashed out. Boom. Gone. Right? 0 to 100 real quick. Okay? But you're not going to say that person is always getting in trouble, always getting arrested, can't stay out of trouble because they got in trouble one time. Jared Goff stayed out of trouble for 6 games. And then he crashed out one game. Boom. Don't know what happened. Crashed out, lost his mind. Threw 5 picks. Jordan Love is Pac-Man Jones. He gets picked off every single game. Some games, multiple. Okay? Which is why he has 12 picks and he's only played in 8 games. This is what I mean. Right? One of them was an anomalous situation. The other one is a trend. And I talked about it yesterday when I talked about the NFC North report, when I talked about Jordan Love making bad decisions. Jordan Love makes poor decisions with the football. He puts the football in harm's way early and often. And this is why he has 12 picks. Okay, or is it 11? Yeah, I think it's 11 because they had a bye week after they played the Lions, right? So it's 11. He's got 11 picks. He should have 12 because he put a ball in harm's way, and the only reason it didn't get picked up is because the safety fell trying to break on the football. So this is what I mean, okay? Did he throw the interceptions? Yes. Yes, he did. He had one game where he threw a bunch of picks. All picks are not created equal. Okay? And one of them, it was just a Hail Mary because they were trailing 23-7 before going into the half, and he just threw it up. You know, nobody really cares about a Hail Mary pick. He says 9 is 9 all around the world. But 9 is not 11. Okay? 9 is not 11. And 9 is not 10. Okay? And those are the numbers for Patrick Mahomes or Jordan Love and Patrick Mahomes respectively. Okay? So anyway, back to what we were talking about. So the only way, like I said, for the Detroit Lions to win the Super Bowl and get all the props is that they have to play each of the best teams. And like I said, if you had the number 8 team, even if it's like the Rams, okay, you can't play the Rams because the narrative against the Rams is going to be that they had so many injuries and they weren't at full strength and blah, 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 as if the Lions were. Right? So you have to play a team that's whole, but is the Atlanta Falcons. Okay? Right? The Atlanta Falcons, let's say they creep into the playoffs, they're number 8 in the NFC, and they just so happen to beat the Packers. Last second field goal gets blocked, whatever, just like the Packers just beat the Bears, right? So this happens, and now the Detroit Lions have the Atlanta Falcons because they were on a bye, and it's now the Detroit Lions' fault that they're playing the Atlanta Falcons in the divisional round instead of the Packers. That's just going to be the narrative. Why is it my fault? I played the opponent that was in front of me. Maybe the Packers should have beat the Falcons instead of losing to them. Maybe that should have happened. Okay? So that's why I said they have to go through the Packers. They have to go through the Packers, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Kansas City Chiefs to get, because either the Chiefs or the Ravens. Why the Ravens? Because of the way that they got blasted last season by the Ravens. Lamar beat the brakes off of them, right? It's got to be the Chiefs or the Ravens. The Buffalo Bills, not going to be. Especially if they beat the Bills in a few weeks here at Ford Field. It's going to be, well, they beat them once already. They had the blueprint, blah, blah. There's going to be haters. But other than what's going to be haters, there's going to be a parade on Woodward Avenue. And all the haters can suck it. If there's a parade on Woodward Avenue, we don't care. Okay? Just like Stephen A. said, I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care. We don't care. Okay? If there's a parade on Woodward Avenue and the Detroit Lions are on the float with the Lombardi. That we don't care about what happened. We don't care who we had to play. We don't care if we played all the last place teams that miraculously beat the first place teams. We don't care about none of that, because there will be a Lombardi being hoisted in Detroit. First of all, it'll be hoisted in New Orleans. Then it's going to be brought back to the Detroit Lions, which has never happened before. Okay, and then all of us can be happy and we can go on about our lives, obviously continuing to cover the team, continuing to root for the team, but that tremendous monkey will be off of our backs that we have not had the chance to get off our backs before. All right. Y'all still arguing about these interceptions, bro. Listen, Jordan Love has more interceptions than Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes has more interceptions than Jared Goff. It's just the way that it is. You know, they've got more. They're not tied. If they were tied, it's a different situation. It's a different talking point. They are not tied. Tailor-made media, would you like to see Hendon Hooker? Who would you like to have instead of Jared Goff? Because there is no one else who we would rather have in Detroit than Jared Goff. Jared Goff. Jared Goff. Jared Goff. Okay? Now, if you're going to do some sort of fantasy draft and you're telling me this year, can you tell me, TaylorMade, this year, that you are taking Patrick Mahomes over Jared Goff with the way that they have played this year? And we're going to say the way that they are playing continues throughout the year. There's nothing that's going to change. And you're not allowed, you got to look at it in a vacuum. You're not allowed to look at last year or previous years. This particular football calendar season, are you taking Patrick Mahomes over Jared Goff? You cannot sit there and tell me that you would with 100% certainty. No one, without looking at last year or past history of career, no one is saying that Patrick Mahomes is outplaying Jared Goff this season. This is why Patrick Mahomes is not being mentioned in the MVP race, because he's playing poorly. All right, he's playing poorly. That's it. Patrick Mahomes is playing poorly this season. He is not having a Patrick Mahomes-esque season. He's just not. He just isn't. Okay. All right. Kirby Joseph. In a heartbeat. That's crazy. That's crazy, TaylorMade, because I just laid it out. Nothing is changing. There is not a change. If we say the trajectory of their seasons, of their play right now stays the same, you cannot tell me you're taking Patrick Mahomes over Jared Goff. There's no way. It's no way. Look at their QBR. Look at their completion percentages. Look at how they're winning games. Okay, come on now. That doesn't make any sense. You're not saying, you don't believe that. You don't believe that. You being Nick Wright right now. You're married to the take. You're married to the take right now. Don't marry the take. Don't marry the take, man. Divorce the take. I gave you a chance. The take was guilty of infidelity. The take cheated on you. She stepped out. Okay? She stepped out. Go ahead. You take your out clause right now. All right, Kirby Joseph, man. Kirby Joseph. You probably heard Dan Campbell talk about Kirby Joseph. And he was singing his praises. And the thing about Kirby, and I touched on this briefly yesterday, was how quickly he has grown into what he is. If you don't know, Kirby Joseph has the most interceptions at this point of his career since Ed Reed. He actually has more than Ed Reed at this point of his career. This is, I believe, Kirby Joseph's, this is his third year. The first 2 seasons, he had identical like stats. I believe he had was it 85 tackles, four interceptions, and 1 pass breakup. And this was the thing, right? PFF, I did this before in the offseason. There was a lot of talk about PFF and what PFF was doing and saying. Okay? PFF did not put Kirby Joseph in its top 10 safeties. Yet it's number 2 and number 3 safeties. He had better numbers than and the same numbers than, or just right underneath. And I thought that was crazy. Now, you look at Kirby Joseph. If you don't know, some people don't know this. Kirby Joseph did not play safety in college until his senior season. Before that, he was a wide receiver. In high school, he didn't play safety. He wasn't a defensive player until his last year in college. So what happens is this man, this wizard named Brad Holmes, drafted this man in the 3rd round. Brad Holmes is shout out to Brad Holmes. Okay, there can't be anybody in Detroit fandom, in the fan base, who doesn't have complete trust in the abilities of Brad Holmes. If you don't have complete trust in the ability, I understand you might want a guy that Brad Holmes didn't get. A lot of people wanted Chase Young. And look what happened with that. Okay? A lot of people wanted him. A lot of people wanted Danielle Hunter. I wanted Danielle Hunter too. Guess who else wanted Danielle Hunter? Brad Holmes. Guess who wasn't giving up Danielle Hunter? The Minnesota Vikings. Okay? So there's been people. All right? They said everything was on the table. They made calls about Max Crosby and Myles Garrett. They made the calls. Okay? The Raiders weren't playing ball. The Raiders were not playing ball. They weren't giving up Max Crosby. Cool. Okay? So just understanding when you say, well, Brad Holmes won't, he's in love with his picks. Why did he call for Max Crosby, bro? Did he think that he was only giving up a 4th and a 5th for Max Crosby? He knew he was giving up multiple first rounders. He knew it. He made the call to see what they wanted, to see if he could negotiate. And he was told he couldn't negotiate. Mark Davis said, we're not negotiating. This is non-negotiable. We do not negotiate with terrorists. Okay? because the Las Vegas Raiders felt that any organization that was calling to inquire about Max Crosby was a terrorist organization. And they said that we're not going to negotiate with terrorists. Okay? So shout out to Brad Holmes, who sees a guy who can dive into 1 year of tape and see the type of instincts that he saw in Kirby Joseph to spend a 3rd round pick on him. At that point, Kirby Joseph was an unknown. Okay? We didn't even know that we didn't know him. Okay? Let that sink in. Kirby Joseph was an unknown. We didn't even know that we didn't know him. Right? When Shaq is like, it was my bad. I was unfamiliar with your game. We didn't even know we were unfamiliar with his game because we didn't know who he was. He wasn't on the radar at all. Okay? He was an unknown. So shout out to Brad Holmes. But when Kirby Joseph came in here and he started working with Aaron Glenn, and Aaron Glenn has been called a genius. Who do you think had a lot to do with Kirby Joseph's development? Do you think it was Aaron Glenn? You think it was Aubrey Pleasant? Okay, shout out Aubrey Pleasant. I before we started, I just rewatched him chewing out Jeff Okudah on the sideline. Look, a lot of Lions fans were upset with Aubrey Pleasant. When you go back and look at it, it looks bad for Jeff. Because Jeff is not taking coaching. Jeff is talking back. Jeff is pushing back. Jeff is showing a poor attitude. Okay? But anyway, was it Aubrey Pleasant? I don't think Aubrey Pleasant is the one. It's AG. AG is a former defensive back. Okay? He's the one that's most responsible for Kirby Joseph. And I'm sure if you talk to Kirby, Kirby would tell you this. All right? But Kirby Joseph has worked. And he has made himself into one of the top safeties in the NFL. Glover Quinn has the Detroit Lions single season safety record, I believe, was 7 interceptions. Kirby Joseph has 7 interceptions in 10 games. He has 7 more games to get 1 more interception to break Glover Quinn's franchise record. Anthony Richardson is not a good quarterback. I saw Anthony Richardson play against Caleb Williams. This game was the battle of who wants to throw the most interceptions. That's what that game was. Anthony Richardson will throw you a few. Kirby Joseph said when he saw Mac Jones double pat the ball, he said, finally, we got one. And he knew where he was going with the ball, and he went over and he picked it off. What kind of instincts does this man have? He said, finally, I saw a quarterback touch a football 2 times with his hand, and I knew I was picking it off. And he said, finally, we got one. That is crazy. That is crazy work. That he said that, and then he went and did that. Right? So I said that Kirby Joseph, or I said Lions safety makes history every week. He's on pace, like I said. What is he on pace for? Someone do quick math right quick. I'm not a mathematician and I don't feel like getting out my calculator. Somebody do some quick math. How many interceptions is Kirby Joseph on pace for this season? He's got 7 in 10 games. We've got 7 games left. What is it, about 15? Right? If he's got 7 in 10 games, what's that, like 1.3 per game or something like that? Joe Flacco being in Anthony Richardson's ear makes him do what? Throw more interceptions? Because Joe Flacco was not good either. Okay? Joe Flacco, in his 2-game stint as the quarterback, he threw some picks as well. I think, what did he throw? 3? So it's like the blind leading the blind over there. Like, you know, he can tell him what he sees, but when it gets to the bullets are flying and the instincts have to take over, we saw what happened when Joe Flacco's instincts took over. Not much. Okay? Not much but some picks. Okay? Not much but some picks. So Anthony Richardson will probably throw you one. Okay? I thought Mac Jones would throw multiple, and I thought he'd be sacked multiple times just because of what happened with the Minnesota Vikings. But here's the thing I will say about the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings may not be they may be a better overall defense than the Detroit Lions defense. But I think we have the better secondary. Right? I think we have the better secondary. And I also said going into the season, I said that on paper, the Detroit Lions had what it takes to be a top 5 defense. They have what it takes to be a top 5 defense, and they currently are top 5 in some aspects, without a lot of the pieces that I thought that they would have at this point. There is no Aidan Hutchinson. There is no Marcus Davenport. There is no Derek Barnes. There is no Kamish. Now there's no Anzalone. There's just so many non-people, okay? And then again, me saying who there isn't, let's get back to Iffy, right? Just very quickly, Iffy has been placed on IR for the second time. And now I talked about this yesterday. What's happening here very quickly is that Iffy suffered another injury. It was a new injury. So he was coming back from the Achilles tendonitis situation. Same situation that Christian McCaffrey was dealing with, but Christian McCaffrey was dealing with it in both legs, both ankles. So I believe Iffy, let's see what he had. He's been placed back on IR. Let's see if so injured finger. Okay. Injured finger. It's probably a break, and they're probably, just getting more time. So what was happening with Iffy was his 21-day window was coming down to the end of it, where they had to activate him from IR or place him on season-ending IR. So they just activated him after placing Alex Anzalone onto IR. Okay, they activated him in a corresponding move. And then the next day, they put him back on IR for the finger. So he'll miss 4 more games, additional games, right, for the finger. And then they'll be able to open up another 21-day window for him. I'm thinking he plays the last game or two to get ready for the playoffs, barring another setback. All right. So that was the Iffy news. I didn't want to spend too much time on it because I talked about it yesterday to a certain degree, and I said that they probably would do that just based on what I was reading. But the Detroit Lions defense, top 5 defense, okay? We're the number 1 defense on third down. We're number 1 in takeaways. We have the number 1 streak for takeaways at 14 games. There's just a lot, man. There's a lot. We're still very stout against the run. Look at Joe Mixon last night. Look at Joe Mixon was like, okay, I took a break, okay, because I wasn't gaining nothing but 1.8 yards per carry against the Detroit Lions. So I took I had like a bye week last week, okay? I wasn't effective. I couldn't do anything. So I didn't do a lot with my legs. So I was just resting, okay? And he comes out in his first seven carries, he has 60-something yards and 2 touchdowns. Okay? So this is the guy that we stopped. We've had, a couple games where Tony Pollard gave us a little bit of work. Josh Jacobs gave us a little bit of work. Neither one of them got over 100 yards, right? Somehow before that game, we were allowing 100 yards per game, 100.8, which was weird. And then yesterday, what did we give up? 20 yards or something like that on the ground again. So we're probably back down in the 80s. Okay, 80 yards per game, something like that. So our defense is trending top 5. Right? In all the parts that matter. I think we're allowing the third fewest points at 17.3. I think the fewest points is right at 17, or maybe just under 17, something like that, right? So we're top 5 in everything that matters. Okay? And Kirby Joseph is a big part of that. Brian Branch is a big part of that. Carlton Davis is a big part of that. Terrion Arnold, Amik Robertson. And this is why I said that we have the best secondary Amik Robertson is the number one tackling safe corner, right? We just have so much, and we have Brad Holmes to thank for all of the things, that we have, and the depth. Okay, we mentioned yesterday the signing of David Long. David Long was putting in work now a few years ago. Obviously, he's not what he used to be, but he's going to get you some spot duty, and he's going to be able to be good for you, I think, and fill in for, as depth as Anzalone was injured. Again, like I said, Anzalone was placed on not season-ending IR, but, missing 4 games. What they said, he'd be out 6 to 8 weeks, right? So if he misses 4 games, and then you have the 21-day window, okay, that's 7 weeks. Okay, so 6 to 8, he's out 21 days after the 4 games, 7 weeks, so he should be back either right at the 6-week mark, or they might hold him out for the 7th week and have him on on the injury report, and then he's out, and then the next game he comes in. But that's it, guys. This team. As a Lions fan, it is a great honor to be able to sit here and talk about not how bad the Lions are. When I started, like I said, whether it was 2020, 2021, when I started, it was a bunch of complaining about Jared Goff looking like garbage, not throwing the ball away on 4th down, or throwing the ball away on 4th down, or running out of bounds on 4th down, or running around like a chicken with his head cut off. This is not making good decisions, throwing interceptions, fumbling all over the place, right? Questionable Dan Campbell calls. I don't know that I wanted Dan Campbell fired. I don't remember, because it's like, who are we going to get as a coach? So I was probably a little bit more patient with Dan Campbell. Jared Goff, I didn't want. I didn't want him as the first string quarterback. I said he could be a backup for the team, but we needed to get somebody else in there. He's evolved. He's grown. He's become worthy of that first overall pick. Because what I saw when he got here, he wasn't worthy. He's become worthy of that first overall pick. He is that first overall pick. If you see the way that his career has gone, I think you make him that first overall pick again. If you have the knowledge, what you know today, when you drafted him, you still pick him number 1 overall. Right? So it feels good to be able to come from that. Now, lots of suffering before that. Suffering in obscurity, suffering without a voice, suffering just complaining to, other Lions fans, or when I was living in Atlanta, not talking too much about the Detroit Lions. I mean, when we had a discussion, I'm talking to a Falcons fan all day. I'm going to tell you I'm a Lions fan. Oh, they suck. They might suck, but so what? I'm die hard. I bleed Honolulu blue. You understand what I'm saying? But now I don't have to do that. I don't have to make excuses. I don't have to talk about how I bleed Honolulu blue, because you already know I bleed Honolulu blue. And you see what this team has become. And you see, for the first time, and I will end on this. For the first time in the history of the NFL, your Detroit Lions, okay, because this was before it became the NFL, right? Since the merger, your Detroit Lions, for the first time, are the Super Bowl favorites. And this is not preseason Super Bowl favorites. This is not early season Super Bowl favorites. We're going into week 12, and your Detroit Lions are Super Bowl favorites. So I appreciate you guys hanging out once again. I will get to your comments, but before I do that, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, make sure you share the stream. Let everybody know that the artist formerly known as Chef is back at it with the Motor City Cats, and he is Motor City Don P. You know why I did that? Just using my name, right? MCDC. I'm MCDP, right? I'm in lockstep with Dan Campbell. That's why I'm his official anger translator. All right, guys, let me get to your comments a little bit before I get out of here. So Justin Fan says Kirby is a ball hawk, great speed to ball and great hands. That is correct. I read the Joe Flacco thing already. Telling him what the coverages are. I don't think telling Anthony Richardson what the coverages are going to help him do better until he understands what he's seeing, right? So if you tell me what coverage, if you tell me they're in cover 2, you're not gonna have enough time to really teach my instinct. You can't coach my instincts out of me on what a coverage is during the game, right? If I go, okay, well, I got cover 2 and I'm supposed to on cover 2, I got a hot read. That's my flat. Well, what if it's cover 2 lurk? Right? What if I got a robber in my cover 2? Okay? And what if my robber looks like he's blitzing? Okay, and then he backs out on the snap and he gets right to my flat assignment. Well, I thought I had a blitz, but now there's a flat. I have a hot route that's a flat assignment, but that route's getting jumped. Well, I didn't recognize what was happening because it was disguised coverage, and that route gets jumped and taken to the house for 6. You understand what I'm saying? So, yeah, he can tell him what the coverages are, but Anthony Richardson has to be able to recognize what he is seeing beforehand. He has to understand the whys and the hows. Why is this cover 2? Why is this cover 3? What do they like to do? What are their tendencies? When you see the Lions in nickel, what's happening with Amik Robertson? Does he blitz 70% of the time? Is he in coverage? You understand what I'm saying? So this just comes from film study. So if the film study is not sinking into Anthony Richardson's head, Joe Flacco being in his ear telling him about the coverages during the game may help a little bit, but it's not going to prevent him from throwing the picks that I believe he's lined up to throw. Does that make sense? Lone Spoon, you remembered, man. That's right. Not Thursday. It'll be Wednesday and it'll be Friday. Thursday is the one day that I'm not doing because it just doesn't fit my schedule. They can use Microsoft Surf. Listen, Anthony Richardson was benched. Do you guys know why he was benched? He was benched to become more invested. They did not believe that he was taking it seriously enough. They didn't believe that he was professional enough to be an NFL quarterback. Just go back to Kyler Murray. I've said this about Cliff Kingsbury. I said this in one of my rants about Cliff Kingsbury. Okay? Cliff Kingsbury was not able to rein in Call of Duty playing Kyler Murray. Jonathan Gannon has come in there and done that, right? Jonathan Gannon has gotten him to buy in and be more invested. And now you see the season that he's having. I don't know. And Anthony Richardson is a different human, right? I don't know that Anthony Richardson can go from not being bought in, not being invested, to being benched for 2 weeks, watching them lose those 2 weeks. Okay? Watching them lose those 2 weeks. Because here's the thing. When you watch your team lose for 2 weeks, as they've benched you for 2 weeks, then you go, yeah, see? Now they coming back to me. You know what I mean? It's AR. Now they coming back. AR-15, baby. That might have been worse for him. That might have been worse for him. And you see he won the game in his comeback because he was playing the Jets. The Jets have given up. You saw the Jets fired their general manager, right? They fired Joe Douglas. And then with the new regime coming in, they're getting rid of Aaron Rodgers. They're going to eat that cap hit. They don't care. That's what they're leaning towards. They don't want him back. This is the team that he beat. The team that had the number one defense and before, PFF rated their defensive line, the number one defensive line, and they had Sauce Gardner out there doing number one corner things. And nobody's doing anything of that nature at this point in the season. They're 3-7. This is the team he beat. And he beat them at the buzzer pretty much. Okay? That's not the team he's playing on Sunday. That ain't it. He's playing the Detroit Lions. That's right. Cliff Kingsbury is working with Jaden Daniels, but Jaden Daniels didn't have that problem where when Call of Duty comes out, he's just got to stream it and he's got to play it and not watch enough film. Remember, they put stuff in Kyler Murray's contract about the amount of film that he needed to watch. Okay, so when you have to put that in the contract, instead of having the head coach that can say, listen, whatever you're doing is not working. You need to get in the film room. You need to watch more film. I need you to come into the film room with me and we need to break this stuff down together. Jaden Daniels is different, right? Jaden Daniels has enough motivation to go and say, hey, let's get this right. Did you see the thing with Jaden Daniels? Jaden Daniels watches virtual reality. He watches the plays through virtual reality and does drills through virtual reality. And his virtual reality setting, I think, is like 200 times faster than what he's actually going to go through when he plays in the game. So everything is slower for him in the game. He does his warm-ups with a basketball so that when he picks up the football during the game, it feels so much lighter. Jaden Daniels is a different guy. He's a different guy than Kyler Murray was. And Cliff Kingsbury is just his offensive coordinator. Right? This is what I mean. Exactly. It's hard to watch film when your goal is to be the best at Call of Duty, says Paul Thomas. Okay, Doug Williams is working with him too. You see, he's got. That's you're making my point. All right, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here, man. I appreciate you all for hanging out, man. Keep coming back. We're gonna keep growing this thing. We're gonna keep getting out to more Lions fans. This is me, man. This is me. I'm just comfortable. I love talking to the people in the chat. I love it, man. I love interacting with other Lions fans. It's all love. We agree, we disagree. We're fans of the same team. At the end of the day, tailor-made media, man. I just need you to get on the Goff train, man. I need you to get on the Goff train. Because, hey, we win the Super Bowl. That's the greatest quarterback you've ever seen as a Detroit Lions fan. And it's not even close because Matthew Stafford won us nothing. Matthew Stafford couldn't even win us a division. Forget a playoff game. Matthew Stafford couldn't win us a division. Okay? And that is what that is. All right, guys. Once again, appreciate you all for hanging out. The Motor City Cats, back at it. I came to give you stats, not static. Whatever you do, keep your Lions news